I have served my country for around 10 years in the Army National Guard, participating in 12 deployments, including multiple federal, state, and NATO missions, ending with the 2003 invasion of Iraq. That was a scary time for me. I was 29, married, two small kids. When I was over there, for me to do my job effectively as a turret gunner without fear, I had to accept that I was most likely going to die while doing my job. When I returned home from the war, I started to show signs of PTSD and a TBI, which I sustained while in Iraq. It gradually became worse and worse. Everyone else was seeing all this, everyone except me. It's weird how that works sometimes. When I started to notice things, I chose to leave my close friends at the Wheat Ridge Fire Department, where I volunteered as a firefighter too. Leaving was one of the hardest decisions I have ever made in my life. I loved everything about that life. From there, it continued getting worse until one day my whole world crashed down on me and I suffered a psychotic break. I wanted to drive my truck through my garage door because I was hurting so much. From there, I continued to fall for the next 5 years, pretty much checking every box except one on my way to the bottom. My marriage was suffering, my kids were suffering, and I felt like a shell of my former self. It also was the first time I couldn't fix the problem. At some of my lowest times, I suffered from agoraphobia with rapid cycling emotions, living feral in my basement because I didn't want to scare my kids who were little at the time. I had no hope and saw no way out, but I had no quit, so I just kept pushing forward. As I continued on my journey towards healing, I didn't want to sink into negativity any more than I already was. I've always been kind of a nerd and a total sci fi junkie, so I started to develop my own stories, which evolved into rides that enhanced the stories, and then whole park and vacation experiences set in those stories, creating my own franchisable story universes. I did this as I continued on my own healing journey over the next 10 years, with the last four participating in extensive weekly therapy. I share this with you to try and help break down the negative stigmas around mental health and therapy. Healing only comes when you let others in. It's not a solo act. The same could be said about business. At the same time, I was also expanding myself and finding out as much as I could about this new immersive experience industry. I was just doing it for fun and falling more and more in love with it the more I learned about it. Someone once said to fall in love with the stage, but don't get blinded by the lights. I definitely went blind. I missed having a professional purpose, so I continued to develop these entertainment concepts further, seeking help and mentorship, which also helped me get out of my social anxieties and agoraphobia. My first mentor was instrumental in helping me see the product I had created. He also was the first person to tell me that the money is out there. They're looking for good ideas. That blew my mind. So I doubled down. I studied a lot. I read and researched the thought leaders within this immersive industry, and I studied others' work. I decided to become a legit business in 2020, and Interactive Entertainment Company was born. I used the pandemic to teach myself enough engineering and traditional dark ride design technology to design my actual experiences. After all the craziness of the pandemic in 2022, I took a chance and applied and then was accepted into the Bunker Labs 22 Bravo Veteran in Residence cohort. This fine group of veterans helped me so much, from the camaraderie I felt again and learning about different ecosystems within my business field to teaching me the basics and culture of business in general. I truly was now on the road to becoming a non traditional business person. Towards the end of 2022, I doubled down on breaking out of my comfort zone again and started going to different Denver entrepreneurial events. But it's not that simple. Because of my TBI, I can't drive. So I take public transit and walk everywhere. I would and still do this up to a couple miles sometimes from the train to attend different events, some of the time at night and having to pass through some pretty sketchy parts of town. I do this happily because A, I was in the army, so bring it. And B, I'm now more afraid of someone else doing these professional things that I want to accomplish than I am of any of my other anxieties and struggles, which are still there. While in the Veteran in Residence program, with a tip from a fellow cohort vet, I applied and was accepted into the Texas A&M Reynolds and Reynolds Entrepreneurial Boot Camp for Veterans program. Through this program, I was helped to take all of what I had been learning to the next level. They helped me figure out some different strategies to get started as I'm bootstrapping this myself. I'm very proud to be a disabled veteran owned business. Through this process, I have been humbled by the kindness of others so many times. Some of you are in this room tonight. Thank you.